Okay, we will go ahead and get started then. Hello, everybody. Happy 2025. I think I'm still allowed to say that. We wanted to kick off the calendar year with a little update. So as many of you know, we've been sort of working on this strat plan for a while. So we thought this would be a timely opportunity to give the department an update at where things stand. So that's really what the topic for today is. But before we begin, I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we're located on Treaty 6 territory, a traditional gathering place for diverse Indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Blackfoot, Métis, Nakota Sioux, Iroquois, Dene, Ojibwe, Saulteaux, Anishinaabe, Inuit, and many others whose histories, languages, and cultures continue to enrich our vibrant community. All right, so welcome. So just as by way of introduction in terms of our strat plan, so you'll recall that we spent probably about, I don't know, 6 to 8 months doing all that consultation. And then eventually in 2024, we had an outline of the strat plan with our various objectives, which I'll go through in a second, and developed working groups and so on. And then we put a very tight timeline on the working group leads because we were really hoping that when we had our 100-year celebration on November 1st, that we would be able to give at least an outline of where things were at. And I have to tell you, the groups really exceeded my expectations. The amount of work that was put in to get really concrete ideas out there and get things going was so impressive. And so we really felt it was important to share that information with the entire department, because although it was presented on November 1st in posters, there was just so much going on that day that we really didn't get a chance to sort of go through it in further detail. So that's why we came up with the idea that the first grand rounds of the year would be a good opportunity to do this. And then, depending on how things are moving along, we hope that over the next couple of years that we'll be able to give continual updates. So, of course, just to start off with, a strategic plan is not everything that we do. It is part of what we do, and it helps keep us going forward. It's very important. I mean, as I'm coming up on my second term renewal here, recognizing that when we started 5 years ago, we had some immediate fires to put out. And so this really, there wasn't an opportunity to look forward. And so this has been a really exciting time as far as I'm concerned for the department in terms of thinking about, okay, now post those immediate fires, not to say there aren't still fires today. What are some things that we want to start thinking about in terms of moving the department forward? And so I just, again, want to take this opportunity to thank multiple individuals in the department for taking this on and really moving things forward. So in terms of the working groups, you can see there, we've got our various leads. There is one working group missing there, and that is our research group, and that's led by Evangelos. We omitted that for today because I thought on November 1st, there was actually a lot of opportunity to give updates on where things were at with that working group. And so we wanted to focus on the other 5 today. Okay, so excuse me. Once again, by way of reminder, when we took this work on, we sort of developed these objectives and, wanted to sort of break them out into what the department members felt was important. And so this is, I find, a little bit complex and hard to go through. But there were some values that we talked about were important to the department and again, just reinvigorated that, and I guess committed to ensuring that those values are still relevant. And so we fit within the larger context, right? And the larger context is the university institution the college, and the faculty. And then on the clinical side, of course, we've got, Alberta Health Services. And so when we developed this plan, we were very cognizant that we need to fit within that wide context. And so just to keep that in mind, once again, our values in terms of ensuring that we are providing that level of leadership, that we care about the way we work. So integrity, respect, and caring are hallmarks. Collaboration and collegiality. We are a team. Partnerships were identified again as being important. Transparency and accountability, and then that continuous improvement in everything that we do. So these were values that have been well outlined. We recommitted to them and continue to work towards that. So this is that matrix that's put into sort of an easier to read format, if you will. So we went through all of these objectives and decided, okay, how does this fit into something concrete that we can work towards? And based on these objectives, we developed our 6 working groups. So the 6 working groups were really around leadership development, which Sebastian was kind enough to lead. The medical education innovation group, which of course BJ is leading. The community connections and enhancement group. So this is our connection to the external community, which I know has been difficult to define, and Adrian's going to go through that for us and has been providing leadership with that group. And then the faculty administrative services expectation group. So this was one that was born from the fact that, there's been a lot of changes both within the department and outside the department. With the university, previously they called it the SET initiative, and then it's continued to move forward with KSIP and continuing to look at the administrative services that we provide. That how within our Department of Medicine infrastructure can we ensure that we're providing the administrative support to ensure that our faculty are able to succeed. And then last but not least, the one that I'm personally a member of, Karen, I know I wasn't able to make it to many meetings, is how we work together as a collaborative in engaging the internal community. And that's that piece in the purple, the people and workplace. And for those of you who know me, know that I'm very passionate about that I really believe that the place that you spend, I'm going to say 80% of your life, has to be, sort of a place that you want to come to, that you feel this is home, that there's people that you can connect with. And that's really what I think brings joy to work in life. So without further ado, so these are the chairs. I didn't mention the research simply because I think that's been talked about in detail in the past. I'll start off by, again, saying thank you to this group, both the individuals who are chairing the working groups, as well as members of the working group. I have to say, I was so impressed when we put out the call for people to sign up for those working groups, that we really had amazing engagement. So once again, thank you. And so with that, I am going to hand it over to Sebastian to start us off.
Thanks very much, Narman. And it's a pleasure to talk to you about the leadership development part of the strategic plan, working group 1. I would like to start by saying this was very much a team effort, and you see the members of the working group listed here on this slide. So thanks very much to Rayanne, Frank, Amina, Amlish, Robert, Stephanie, and Ashley. We aim to design and develop a leadership development framework, and also think about evaluating leadership contributions in the department. We employed an environmental scan of existing leadership programs to see what's out there at the U of A, at comparable academic institutions, at healthcare-related institutions and associations, and at other non-university and non-healthcare focused institutions and programs. We hope to identify leadership gaps and use that to develop a leadership development framework. You can see here on this slide some of the institutions and programs that we considered and looked at the U of A, the Office of Organizational Development, and U Academy, various other universities in Canada that we deemed were comparable to the U of A in terms of their academic mission, healthcare-related institutions, HS, the CMA, and the Canadian College of Health Leaders, and then a whole range of other institutions and programs aimed at leadership development. Dale Carnegie, probably the most well-known among those. We identified a great number of existing options for leadership development. The leadership course at the Faculty of Medicine and Dentistry. We also identified that, of course, the department has been rolling out the Leadership Impact Index across the divisions, which was based on some work at the Mayo Clinic, which has been adopted and adapted to fit the U of A context. So you'll likely have come across that in your divisions. In terms of other academic institutions, this was Stephanie's good work here, leveraging her network and asking, is there a leadership framework? Is there, what are the sort of training options for leaders at the various institutions? And it turns out that they pretty much all the comparable universities had leadership training on offer for people going into leadership positions. Typically provided free of charge, some external, some internal, some in collaboration with the School of Business at those institutions. We identified a number of options for leadership training on the AHS interface of My Learning Link. Also noteworthy are the CMA options, the Fundamentals, and the Physician Leadership Institute. The non-university affiliated and non-healthcare related programs were a bit of a mixed batch, and I'm grateful to Amlish for looking into that in detail. There really were numerous courses typically built around a personality and with an evidence base typically not readily apparent, and also often somewhat vague in terms of what they actually offered. Lots of testimonials, but perhaps difficult to choose, more difficult to choose among those than among the more clearly defined offerings at universities and healthcare associated institutions. Nonetheless, there may be some pearls in there as well. We ended up really brainstorming and coming up with some recommendations for the department, which you see here, and I'll just briefly run through them. We thought it's important that leadership training be available to both present and future aspiring leaders, that access to leadership training should be available to those in formal as well as informal positions of leadership. Leadership training should be undertaken during normal working hours, as people may have other commitments that stand in the way of participating outside of regular working hours. Training should be available to physicians, non-physician academic staff members, as well as administrative staff members, as leadership is an important aspect of work in all those domains. And we considered whether we would recommend a new program in the department, but upon reflection, it seemed that there is such a lot already on offer that we are of the opinion it makes more sense to leverage the existing programs than to think of something brand new, as there is various flavors of leadership training that may suit different needs. If possible, so we put the if possible here to for Narman to have some wiggle room. The department should cover the cost of leadership training for its members, and we learned through the environmental scan that in BC there's apparently quite a lot of funding available for people to undergo leadership training at the University of British Columbia. So maybe that can be used as an argument to identify some pots of money here. Time spent on leadership training should be recognized as work time rather than as something one does in addition to work, because it serves the mission of the university. If possible, the U of A should recognize successful completion of leadership training when determining merit increments, as it sort of tends to drive people. And we also thought that it may be useful to think about mentorship in the leadership development program. And in that context, I'm very pleased that my mentor, Ross Suyuki, is here in the audience today. And so we're thinking it would make sense, as people generally serve 2 terms in whatever leadership position they are in, unless something goes horribly wrong, that one could pair newly appointed leaders, typically in their first term of a leadership role, with a more established leader in an equivalent position in another unit who would typically be in their second term. And with that, we kind of concluded the work of the working group for now, and we're happy to hear your feedback and opinions on what we've done. Thank you, Nama.
So I'm pleased to present the Medical Innovations Working Group. So coming back to the objectives of the STRAT plan, first was to develop, disseminate, and implement innovations in medical education, with a further definition of creating and sharing new and improved education methods, tools, or practices within the medical field to enhance quality and effectiveness of medical training and education delivered by the department. The way we sort of viewed this is, we're doing a lot of good work that's not getting out there, and what are the barriers for that? Basically, put that way. And so with this, I formed 2 working groups to tackle the problem in parallel. The first is looking at traditional scholarship. Not that it's the be all and end all, but again, we have a lot of great educators doing great work who have work that's very suitable for traditional dissemination, and it's not getting out there. So the question is, what are the barriers to this in terms of getting grants? What are the barriers to this in terms of publications? How do we address this? Group 2 was looking at non-traditional scholarship in terms of, you're doing good curriculum design, but is it really meeting the definition of scholarship? How can we get it there? How can we disseminate in ways other institutions don't have to reinvent the wheel? And then what came about through the conversations with this working group is, how do we raise awareness of just the good work in general we're doing here? It's fascinating in the med ed world, you don't find out so-and-so in your own department's doing similar work until you meet them in Halifax at a med ed conference. It happens quite commonly. So how do we get that word out here? And how do we build community? This was something we heard quite a lot. So we have 2 new initiatives on the traditional scholarship side. We have a Department of Medicine Scholarship in Medical Education, or SIGN grant, and it can fund multiple grants up to $20,000. We sort of had an early bird for October 1st in advance of the November gala. And Jonathan Windrum, cardiology, was the first successful application on a very interesting grant on the use of video-based learning and augmenting cardiac exam and auscultation skills. And we're going to have another opening kind of coming up in the next bit. But if you want more information, just email me. Because there's not a lot of grants coming in currently, we're kind of doing a rolling adjudication of that. In terms of the second, I'm very excited about this one, is we now have a research assistant in the department. So her name is Ashley. She's from the Center for Research and Applied Measurement and Evaluation in the Faculty of Education. So we have a collaboration with Crane. And Ashley was working 6 hours from September to December, 6 hours a week. We've actually just increased her to 12 hours because there started to be a lot of good uptake using Ashley. And I want her to be busy. So if you've got med ed projects, even if it's just an idea to start, you can set a consultation with Ashley just by emailing dommira@ualberta.ca. She'll sit down, go over things. She can help with a wide variety of things. She's doing lit review. She's actually helped get publications in that final stage, getting them submitted, doing reference checks, doing analyses, lots of stuff like that. So if anything that's kind of education related that needs a little bit of help, Ashley is there to help. On the non-traditional scholarship side, I would say we still have a little bit more work to do here. But one of the things was, we looked at our website and we really felt it wasn't clear who was doing what and the structure around that. So we've started to make some changes. We still have some ideas of other ways to make changes that the group is working on. But one of the biggest things is we felt is we needed a community of practice. We're one of the few universities in Canada that does not have a Center for Research in Medical Education. And there's a lot of historical reasons for that. And especially given the pandemic has been interesting because trying to advocate for a physical space is probably less likely to help at this stage because a lot of us are working remote and we're all over the city. We also have to be mindful of just being like the ivory tower here at the U, making sure we are open to other places. That said, we felt it was good to at least have sometimes in-person meetings. We had our first Department of Medicine Medical Education Community of Practice on November 28th, and I would say it was absolutely fantastic. So this is a group of us that got together. There was about 40 who were interested in coming, and in total, between people who came and went, I think we had about 20 to 25. And what you're seeing there on the boards is we just had post-it notes up, projects you want to start, projects you're stuck on, projects you've completed, what are barriers to your work. And so as the sort of afternoon went on, people put out post-it notes, Ashley and I summarized things, shared it with the group. And it was a time for people to make connections with people. There are people who had never met each other because they've been here a few years between the pandemic, hadn't actually even met some people doing similar work. And so that's Ashley right here, who's talking to Jen from the Alex just about some projects and stuff like that. So we're really hoping this will be a good way that a lot of us have ideas. We're in the middle of a project that's just stuck to get back on the train and get things moving. So there you can see Quentin, Crystal, and Rebecca, part of looking at what other projects other people have completed. And so we're hoping to really move this forward because I feel like we have great momentum up to this stage. Now it's how do we keep that going? So I do want to thank my two different working groups. We have Lana, Carol, Quentin, Oscar, Stephen, Rebecca, Jenny, one of our residents, Rayanne, one of our administrators, Rebecca, Anna, Kahir, another one of our residents, Penny, Jen, another admin, and Jamie Yu. So thanks so much to the work. If you are meeting with people who are thinking about education projects, tell them to reach out to me. We've got grants, we've got supports. I'm going to be bold. So bold to say is we pretty much removed excuses, except for time, which is still a factor, but we're there. We want to support our department to get their work moving forward. So thank you.
So thanks for my role, along with my very able colleagues who are extremely engaged in this, was how do we enhance community connections? And as you might expect, the first thing is it's the world and his wife, isn't it? So who or what is the external community? And so as part of this work, we decided to find out exactly what people's perception was of the external community with which we might want to engage, people's perspectives on that, and some idea around prioritization and what people are already up to. I think as Vijay has well articulated, you could be in the next office to someone who's doing exactly the same thing. You have no idea, and that's a bit of a shame. And that, I think, will be dealt with in some of the internal community and culture things. So the external community is made up of multiple components or sectors. As you're all aware, I'm not telling you anything new here, but it very much depends on your perspective. And this is a word cloud made from the response to the survey which the group put out of the Department of Medicine. Bit of caution, only 50% of divisions or their representatives responded to the survey, so half didn't, and we don't know what the other half are doing. But there are things from philanthropy to patients themselves, patient representatives groups, so-called hard-to-reach vulnerable populations. There were funders, there were other foundations, there were individual philanthropists, all mentioned here, quite a wide grouping. And many examples of current community engagement were provided by department members, both at individual and division level, including research showcases, including individuals giving health awareness talks, working with patient representative organizations in their own area of interest, community education, industry advice and consultancy, and community organization board membership, so more philanthropic, altruistic activities. And these were, to a great extent, supplementary to current formal job plans. And much of this took outside of normal working hours. Much as we've heard, I think, already, a lot of the stuff we do is additional to our core job plan. But there was a wide variation in the degree of engagement, and it's often very much dependent upon individual motivations, individual altruism, and interest. So we're leading to two things here is what is the value? To whom should that value accrue? And how might we recognize or grant merit, perhaps, for those individuals that are heavily engaged? But then how, as a department, might we raise the image of the department? I think Andrew is awfully articulately saying, people go out and talk to CTV, University of Alberta, Faculty of Medicine. Is the department ever mentioned? No. We need to change that. That was a verbatim quote, actually. I can send you the recording.
Yes, but I didn't say that.
So what are the potential benefits? And again, some of the things that came out were visibility, brand awareness, I think, which echoes Andrea's didactic Hitlerian rant, research, advocacy, trust. Are there people within the Department of Medicine in whom you trust for a good advice, good opinion, a gold standard, gold-plated point of view? And then greater understanding, reflecting the health awareness and health education component of much of which we'd like to do, but is often, again, outside or supplementary to our core everyday job. Barriers, again, time, dedicated resources, conflicting priorities, lack of engagement, lack of recognition, and the additional workload all came through. So we came up, the group came up with a matrixized model, identifying these 9 separate, although lumped together, sectors of the external community. The horizontals we felt we needed to do, and this is where we're still left with strategic planning, a strategy around community engagement, but we can at least have some ideas of implementation, that we need to do work on communication and public relations. We need to have a constant, either targeted or generic outflow of communications for mainstream media, social media, and it may be divisional, departmental, or individual. And on that, we need to work on faculty development, media training skills, presentation skills, just more, as you're doing a leadership course, just do a bit more on the side. Communication skills and expert panels. If Andrew is approached for someone to talk about diseases of warts in older armadillos, where is the expert? Do we have one? Do we have one that's trained? Do we have one that's willing to get out there and showcase the Department of Medicine? So platform activities, communications, and faculty development should probably form the initial steps in preparation for this proactive, targeted engagement. That is something we can do now, something we can do earlier. But there are main matters to be resolved. Firstly, priorities. Where should we go first? Should we go anywhere first? What are the risks and benefits of each sector with which we engage? The working group was strongly of the opinion, however, that patient and public engagement was probably the priority with which we should engage initially. Obviously, implementation will require both human and financial resources, commitment and recognition of activities, expert speaker panels at all levels of engagement will be needed. And then we started to work on how you might assess the impact and a matrix which might comprise measurable outcomes needs to develop to gauge the return on investment. And that's more work to do. But I think we have an initial few steps, and I thank the working group for all of their hard work, debate and consideration, and the Nuremberg Rally. Thank you.
So thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm happy to present on behalf of Dr. Karen Doucette, who's the chair of the working group of the Faculty Administrative Services Expectations. I'd also like to thank the members, Dr. Francis Carr, Dr. Robert Niedeski, and Ashley Kaisers. It's a smaller working group. We had hoped to have maybe a couple more people. So if anyone after this presentation might be interested in joining and participating and providing some constructive feedback, that would be greatly appreciated. You can just email me at bowman@ualberta.ca. With respect to our working group, the objectives were to develop the department-wide shared expectations for administrative services to support faculty members effectively. And as part of our regular ongoing activities, continuous improvement in all of the service areas. What the working group developed was 2 surveys to capture the experiences that individuals have had with respect to using the services currently that are provided within the Department of Medicine. So the faculty survey, that was sent out to approximately 215 faculty members with 42 responses, so only a 20% response rate, but the survey was only open for 2 weeks. So we are looking at potentially considering reopening it again so that we can get additional feedback from the faculty members. The purpose of the faculty survey was to understand how the faculty have interacted with the service areas and what their experiences were, whether they were positive experiences or if they had some concerns or issues. We also developed an administrative services survey, and that was meant for the service areas themselves to also get a sense from that group what their experiences were in interacting with the faculty members and providing the supports that they provide. So we wanted to see if there was a gap between those in terms of the understanding of those interactions amongst the individuals providing the services to the faculty. So obviously the target audience was all admin staff and all faculty members within the department. And we also wanted to identify certain considerations that would need to be taken into our thought process as we move forward in terms of developing the shared expectations. So what is reasonable within finite resources and competing priorities? Understanding what activities and decisions are within and external to the Department of Medicine. As Dr. Kassam mentioned earlier, we had SET, we have KSIP still going on. KSIP still has numerous initiatives and is looking at continuing for at least another, I would say, 3 to 5 years. So it'll be constantly a shifting, environment for us to be working in. And then understanding that regardless of the above, the faculty members desire seamless service amongst administrative groups and levels. And that seamless service is not just within the department, but it also includes shared services and other areas that do provide services to all of us. So in terms of the faculty survey, all of the ratings of the services were tallied, and the responses to the short answer questions and comments have been themed. I will say it was a broad spectrum of responses, some incredibly good. Others could use a significant amount of improvement. So it was all over the place, and it seemed to depend on the areas and the people and what their personal expectations may have been. So the faculty survey results, as I said, have been reviewed and themed, and the administrative service survey results are somewhat in progress. There was a little bit of a misunderstanding about the purpose of that one. I have met with the various service areas prior to Christmas and continuing to do so here after Christmas to ensure that the understanding is appropriate and we get the results that we're actually looking for. So in terms of the future activities, we're also undertaking an activity review within the admin services area. So what that is meant to do is identify those work areas or work activities that individuals in the service area spend the most amount of their time. We're also trying to identify if there are certain areas or individuals that take up no time and try and understand why they're not using the services, but also understand if there are areas that are using a significant amount of the services and how that works in terms of workload and if it's individual specific or if there's other issues that we need to ensure that supports are provided. So we're implementing the activity review, and then we will be working to finalize the department-wide shared understanding of service expectations and communicate that through multiple pathways. The one issue that I will say that we're a little bit struggling with at this point is the level of detail or the scope of the definition of shared services. There's not the opportunity, I don't believe, for us to go through process by process by process by process. So if you have a purchase order that needs to be approved, I don't know that we can go, okay, that'll be done within 24 hours and do that for every single process. On the other hand, we don't want to set or create a set of shared expectations that are simply so broad that they become meaningless. So we're working on trying to define that scope and ensure that we have something that will be useful and measurable going forward so that we can continue with the improvement processes as we go forward. And that is it for the Service Expectations Working Group. I shall hand it over to Dr. Crooker.
Happy New Year, everybody. I think you can say Happy New Year the whole year, but the whole month, but that's okay. So we're part of the engagement and collaboration group. And so this is our team members. And I want to also highlight the work that Kathy did to help get us together, because they were really, I think initially we weren't sure how to do this. And I think they're really beneficial to help us get on track. And even though they have a little bit of technology issues with the program they use, but it was great. So we had two objectives. So one was about culture. So we want to improve the culture. And so this is kind of our objectives: an intentional and systematic effort to enhance overall atmosphere, values, behaviors, and attitudes. And so this will be done through transparency, communication, teamwork, leadership, policies, and engagement. And really the thing is we want to foster a healthy environment to allow everybody to thrive, to be motivated to perform their best. And so when we say everybody, we mean everyone in the Department of Medicine, not just faculty. We mean the students, we mean admin support, we mean everybody. And so I think that was really important that we wanted to do this. And so maybe some of you are aware of the Working with Respect document. And so I'm not sure it's been well circulated, but the language of it is really kind of outdated. It was created a long time ago. And we really found that some of the stuff we're just like, it's not how we talk about things anymore. And it really shows how much we have progressed in this area. So we're working on how we can update that. And we're harnessing like expertise from other people in our department to actually help make this a possibility. And then we want to work on how do we, once we create this document or create this kind of terms of reference or however we want to call it, we want to figure out how can we disseminate and socialize this. And so that work is in progress. And so this is outdated, the content and the language, and it needs considerable revision. And then the one thing to remember is that even though we're part of the Department of Medicine, we're also part of the broader faculty, we're part of the broader college, we're part of the broader university. And there's lots of other existing resources that we have to like fall within. So we can't have a guidance document that like is against what our professions and values from the faculty are, or other things, anti-racism policies of the university. And so it's really important that we're mindful of all those other communities that we're a part of in general. And so we're working on the small group to develop this further. And so these are the people that are also helping with us. So thank you, Penny, especially because I know you're like professionalism and embodied, I always feel. And so in terms of the dissemination, we have a guiding principle. I think changing culture takes everybody, but it has to start from the top. And so we're going to really rely on the chair and the division directors to champion this culture change. So we'll present at grand rounds, individual divisions, and then in terms of helping develop support staff leadership to also disseminate these plans. So our second objective is community, and this is really about promoting an inclusive and a culture within the Department of Medicine, and active engagement and supportive and working together. We want social bonds, inclusivity, belonging, cooperation, communication, transparency, and a connected working place. And so we think back to when you became chair and the pandemic hit, everybody went home. And I think it really is like, I'm like, this is probably the, except for Christmas gifts, I think this is the most number of people that have been in person at rounds in a long time. And so we really want to bring people together, and we can use technology to do this, but this is another way. So one of the things that Norman was really instrumental in is in that Department Enrichment Center, which everyone here is going to go up to after 8th floor, and we'll go check it out and kind of hang out a little bit. And we really want to work on fostering connection through regular social events and networking. Because I don't know if you know, when you've had a tough week or when you've had conflicts with people, if you go out and have a drink with people or you share a snack or you have a coffee, sometimes those disagreements or conflicts that you've had with people actually disappear just through like, hey, how are your kids doing? Or what's going on in your life? Are you going on any trips? And so some of those things, not only for like academic scholarship collaboration, but also for like just building of the community. And so I learned about this on the radio, which I think, but I don't know if you saw that, heard that. The fact or the university has rebranded equity, diversity, and inclusion to being access, community, and belonging, which I think is really what our group has been talking about doing for a long time. And so I think this is really, I think this fits with the group, the work of this group. that we really want people to feel like they're a member of, they belong to our, and they're part of our community. And so this is where we're gonna go hang out. We'll go check it out in a little bit. And so then I looked for a quote to like put up on our poster because we didn't have we had to fill a space. And so this is fight for the things that you care about, but in a way that will lead others to join you. And I think this is true for this kind of initiative. So thank you.
All right, I'm just gonna throw in a couple of things and then we'll open it up for questions. So first of all, just to go through each area, when we embarked on this strategic plan, in addition to identifying resources to develop the plan, we also actually identified resources and set some resources aside for implementation. So to just go through some of the questions that have come up, like Sebastian, for leadership, yes, there are resources set aside to help with, sort of moving those objectives forward. We've obviously, with medical education, been able to identify some resources to help with that. External engagement, it's really an interesting area that I am not an expert in whatsoever, but we've got individuals actually in our department that are outstanding and that are going to help us move things forward. So people like Lenora Saxinger, more to come on that. We're going to try and leverage her skills and her sort of, I guess, media presence, if you will. But to help, I really like the way Adrian presented that matrix to think about, okay, there's multiple target groups, but there are some things that we can do commonly, which is sort of department-wide and then faculty-wide. So we've identified some resources there. Administrative services, I mean, that's the one where I feel like we have the least amount of control, believe it or not, even though, you would think that it would be within our purview. So I think we just have to continue leading with the sort of idea that we want to try and make our faculty's work as simple as possible. And that has always been our sort of leading purpose, but it's, understanding that we're within the framework of where we sit within the institutions. We've talked a lot about the university restructuring, but of course, right now we're in the midst of Alberta Health Services restructuring. And just this week, there was, massive announcement, of course, with changes that are continuing, and we don't know where we'll end up. So we do have to sort of try and be a little bit head in the sand, continue working what we're working with, but understand that there's things happening around us. For those of you that were here with me in the mid-90s, you know that a lot of this, we've seen it before. And we will get through it, but we just have to continue having our values and our goals front and foremost within that context. And then the working group, the engagement and collaboration. I think we've already made so much headway, and I'm just so delighted with the work that group is doing. So I think that there's lots and lots to come with that. And once again, we just continue to identify where we need to put in those resources. So to that end, the deck, as Karen mentioned, we're going to have a little get together starting today. We're going to try and do it on a regular basis, whether it's monthly or if it's, sort of related to activities and so on. But we're looking for ideas. And so at some point we are going to, just wanted to get this done, but I had talked to Andrea about having a suggestion box, a virtual suggestion box. So really open to ideas in terms of all of these areas where you think we need to go and, sort of how we can move our agenda forward with the strat plan. So again, I'll just come back to the fact that we recognize this is not all of what we're doing. Our day-to-day work is, takes up sort of 90% of our energy. But I hope you sense that you have that sense of excitement that certainly I feel when I think about this strategic plan as we continue to evolve the department forward, because that's really the idea of this, is that, we really need to have that idea of, okay, how do we continue moving forward and continuing to improve the department? So that's about all I had to add. And I think we will stop sharing and open up to any questions that might be there. So, thank you. Could we get a copy of the slide deck, broad approach to organizational improvement that could inform our smaller programs and divisions? Becky, I think we recorded this, right? Yeah, so this, along with the slides, will definitely be up, available on our website and so on. And, you know, we are still continuing to evolve our website, but have a look. We've already made quite a few changes. So for example, our administrative services summary is on there. VJ's initiatives, we've put all of that on there. So how to get in touch with the MIRA, you know, the ongoing applications that you can put in for the scholarship grants, and various, and research. The research page has actually been overhauled as well to try and provide more user-friendly areas, you know, in terms of if you're applying for grants, this is a how-to. If you need help with various areas, finance or whatever, we've developed a little bit of a how-to in our on our research page. So it's a work in progress, but yeah, it's available. Yeah. Do you want to give her the box? Yeah. Okay. Sorry. There is the box. Thanks, Jen. And you can open it up to any of the working group leads for sure.
Well, I want to comment. I want to comment that the education was really excellent. And if that was present when I started off as a medical educator, I might still be primarily a medical educator. So I think that's really wonderful to help our medical educators turbocharge their careers. In terms of the community engagement, I think that's really key. That people don't realize all the great things that we have done at the University of Alberta. I met someone in the States who said, and I had my hepatitis B cured. And I'm like, that was developed at the University of Alberta. And they're like, where's that? So I think that in the past, there has been this thinking that when people go outside to speak, that's for their own greater glory, but it's not actually. When we go out to speak, it's to really promote the University of Alberta. And I think that, you know, that group really highlighted it. And we have to find ways to actually share the glory with other department members so that you can multiply it. And you get that critical mass. Like some universities are so good at getting every single faculty member on a speaking list, and we have to start to do that as well.
Great comments, Janice. And like I said, I think we've tossed around some ideas and also open to more ideas. But one of the things that we want to start is I guess a YouTube channel, if you will, where we do these one-on-one interviews, a department-wide one. I know there's these individual sort of, you know, people that have various podcasts and things like that, but very department specific. So, you know, that's an idea that's been tossed around. And like I said, with Lenora coming on board, and we're going to give her some time to develop some of these with Adrian's group to think about, okay, how do we do this? And I know there's, you know, intermittently, there are these media training sessions, but I don't know if people understand the importance of taking those on. I remember there was a faculty member in rheumatology who actually took a writing course and I mean, the whole idea of it is how to write your scientific work in prose so that it's understandable to the general public. Like, I would love to have her come and talk about some of the work that she's doing from that perspective. Right?
And that's exactly the target, is to get your work out in media or different audiences. So even some high-profile journals are now using graphic articles. So there are so many different ways to communicate, and
And again, doctors are often
The worst. Yeah.
So we don't speak like human beings, which creates that barrier between us.
Thank you. Do you want to add anything, Adrian?
Well, just firstly, my wife works in medical communications, things that we just have to Genesis talk about. And I tried to get her to come and talk to us. She won't. I'm going to try. Around multimedia, the way people learn nowadays is so different. So you complain my age, people don't read the paper. Then they don't read the abstract. Well, now they go to something TikTok.
Yeah.
And we need to cater for that. So I think there's a lot to learn. We ran a workshop at the International Conference Society last year around this kind of thing, how metrics might really be changing and improving our business. I know we still traditionally measure an impact factor. We need to shift if any of this is going to get married.
And you know, the irony of it is we have people in our departments that do some of this. Like when I'm thinking of Nikhil, for example, in nephrology and others. And I know, you know, at our national society, I've heard people talk about these things, but we need to leverage that a little bit more. So agreed, Adrian. Maybe we can ask your wife since she won't agree for you.
That's normal.
Vijay, did you want to add anything in terms of the medical education piece?
Thank you for the positive comment, Janice. I appreciate that. But no, it's a good point because I agree. It's a slog for many of us when there wasn't infrastructure. I was lucky I was at a time where we did have a small $5,000 medical education research grant when I was starting that kind of supported my thesis work. But and I was remiss to not thank Norman for the funds to support these initiatives, because that's what's really key. I do want to applaud Norman because she was very clear from the beginning of the strat plan to say, we don't just want to come up with ideas. She's willing to put the dollars and the work behind it and to fund if we need more help with consultants and stuff like that. But it is a space where we are also busy. There's no doubt about it. So we're doing everything we can to sort of help out. I know one of the projects I've been like working on for a year, I've needed Ashley to help with just things that I can do. There's just no physical time. And so again, even for if trainees are listening as well, if you're working with a research supervisor, think of a project you'd like to do, we can also support that as well. We're really hoping, like Norman has pledged, that if this takes off, we're going to look for ongoing funds to continue supporting these initiatives. So what I said to a lot of people is, I feel both excited and trepidation over such an opportunity, because this could be amazing. This could be a game changer for education here if we get it to succeed. I have some nights I'm not sleeping because of that big if, but like we've got it there. So if anyone's interested, please reach out to me.
Thanks, BJ. Since there's no questions online, I have a little toss out to folks either online or in here. I struggle the most with that culture, that internal culture piece, and getting, you know, sort of how that engagement happens. So I think Sebastian alluded to on the leadership piece. What we've done is we've actually engaged Mel Lewis's group from the faculty to do some work looking at within the divisions of how leadership and culture sort of tie in together. But you know, I would like to see. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that there is. It's important within your smaller groups to have a high functioning culture, to feel that positive attitude towards coming to work and so on. The department is a little bit larger. And then of course we've got, you know, the faculty and the college and all the rest of it. But, you know, are there other ways that we can think about this culture aspect and how to bring groups together? Because there is this fine balance between asking everybody to start participating in things in person. I mean, I have a meeting at the end of this month, there is no hybrid option. It's only in person, but I've been very loath to put that option forward for our leadership group. We've still got the hybrid option. I think there is a balance between, you know, I never want to go back to the old days. I remember, you know, 20 years ago when you slog your kids to work and still try and make those 7:30 meetings and so on. I really like the opportunity to have that flexibility. But on the other hand, how do we get people together again? Lots of nods. Not a lot of solutions, right?
So I don't think that we necessarily have to come up with a solution because
I think it's not just us, it's every corporation is trying to figure out how do we attract people back. I will tell you that I'm aware of a government close by that is requiring everyone to come in person 100% of the time. They cannot fill their positions, so they're getting contract workers from Ontario who can work hybrid. Which just seems bizarre. So you're not hiring local people, but you're using people from another province because they'll work hybrid. So I think that we should just do that external scan and see what are the best practices to getting people to participate in person so that we don't have to figure it out.
Good idea. Yeah. I think Karen's also got some great ideas. Giovanni, do you want to just, yeah.
I really appreciate a comment from the leadership group, really stating that these activities are part of the working hours. Because too often, I would say, that we consider these activities secondary to clinical work, other form of commitments, and they are always loaded to 7 o'clock in the morning or 5 o'clock in the evening, which is very, very bad for people with family and in general for people with. So I think that is a very often.
Yeah. Thank you. And I've heard that over and over again. I mean, you know, we are, especially within the AMHSP, obviously, we have boundaries that we have to recognize. But within the university system, I mean, you know, we've been pushing at FEC to broaden what is recognized as meritorious. But I couldn't agree more with the statements that Sebastian and you have made.
there's a good comment on that.
Yeah, about feed them and they will come. So I guess that's a good segue over to later today, yeah, at 9 o'clock. In a minute. We're gathering up at the deck for those that can join us. And yes, there will be some snacks and yeah,
Me too.
come when you can. All right, thank you.